There are a lot of people who always say like they know exactly how it works, and it's like, oh, it's A10 now, it's the A10 algorithm, blah, blah, blah. But let's be honest, if you're not an engineer or something working at Amazon, you have no idea how the algorithm actually works, okay? Hi guys, it's been a year, and now it's time for a recap. In this video, I want to share my income from writing genre fiction on Amazon KDP with you. Quick side note before we start, I think financial transparency in the author space is a really good thing. I want to contribute to a clearer picture of what an average self-publisher might earn from their books, if there even is such a thing as an average self-publisher, but whatever. There are a lot of people at the lower end of the spectrum making only pennies, and there are some chosen few at the top who make 7 figures a year, and mostly these are the voices you hear online. And while all those experiences are valid and true, there are also people in the middle like me making a modest amount of money from our books. Not yet to quit their job, but also not nothing at all. And with my book videos, I want to encourage more financial transparency in the author community. But before we dive into my numbers, let me quickly recap my strategy when it comes to writing and what I've been doing so far. So I've been writing since 2012 or something, and for the longest time I had no clue what I was doing. I was always been wanting to sell books successfully since about 2017, when I naively published my first book, which wasn't written to any particular genre or reader expectations or didn't follow any rules, apart from like plot structure and the general rules of having good character development and conflict and so on. So I checked all the boxes when it came to craft, but I didn't really spend any thoughts on marketability or if the book actually had any potential readers at all. So I thought like, this is really fun. I built a book, I like build it and they will come, as they will say, build it and they will come, as they say in tech and stuff. But yeah, they did not come and read my book. Like, it didn't really do well at all. Well, fast forward to 2023. I had taken the longer break from writing and publishing and just focused on my job and everything else. But then suddenly the spark for writing came back. This time, though, I wanted to have a plan. So I consulted writing forums, books, and self-publishing experts online and learned how to successfully write and market books when publishing yourself. And this led me to the following philosophy for my current experiment, as I should say. So instead of, you always hear like, oh, you should write what you love to read, write in the genres you read so you know exactly what's happening and blah, blah, blah. But that never fit right with me because I read a lot of different books and I really don't enjoy writing the stuff I usually read. So I instead focus on what I love to write or what's easy for me to write and what other people love to read. You can imagine a Venn diagram, and where these two circles intersect, that's where I should be when it comes to writing. Thanks, by the way, to Kevin McLaughlin of 20 Books to 50K for that advice. So, to turn the common advice on its head, I read what I like to write. So that means for me, since I've chosen to write cozy, feel-good romance books, I needed to read a lot in that genre to understand what was happening, how the books are built and the story functions and everything. And yeah, normally I would read like thrillers or horror or like sometimes YA or fantasy. But now for my experiment, I had to dive into a different kind of genre, which I normally would never read. But it's also like quite cool to discover new things. By the way, if anyone is interested in these kinds of approaches when it comes to writing and self-publishing, I recommend the following books: Write to Market by Chris Fox, 7-Figure Fiction by T. Taylor, and Become a Successful Indie Author by Craig Montel. Anyway, let's get into my numbers for 2025. My series of short, interconnected standalones is now clocking in at 12 shorter novels, of which 9 were released in 2025. Quick side note again, I'm writing in German. I'm from Germany, living in Sweden, but I write mainly for the German Amazon market, but all the lessons I learned and everything that applies can also be applied to any market, right? It can be the English-speaking market, the Italian-speaking market, French, whatever. I think all these lessons can be applied anywhere. But I should say I'm exclusively publishing on Amazon, my ebooks, so I'm hard fixed on Amazon as many others because they just pay the most and you have this built-in visibility for your books when you're in KDP Select, which there are people who can make it without being exclusive for Amazon, but that's like something that maybe will be relevant in the future, but not right now. Anyway, all in all, for 2025, I had just under 10,600 orders, mostly ebooks, some few print versions also. Then we have the Kindle Unlimited page reads. So Kindle Unlimited is a subscription service Amazon sells to readers, so they can subscribe and read an unlimited amount of books per month. And we as authors get paid for each page that has been read. Last year, I had roughly 4,620,000 pages read in Kindle Unlimited. And for me, that was it. I think it will be around 50-50. So 50% of my income comes from sales and 50% comes from these subscription reads Amazon has. That's also why I'm staying exclusive, because to make up this half of the income would be really hard when I go wide. Apart from all the other things with wide, I haven't actually learned how to do. But another advantage, I think, for having KDP Select is that I get sometimes bonuses from Amazon, which they reward to books that have reached a certain threshold for a month when it comes to borrows and page reads and other secret quality markers. Their decision algorithm is kind of secret, so nobody knows exactly how it works, but like I've noticed that when a book has a bit more than 100,000 pages per month that have been read to Kindle Limited, I usually get a bonus. Like it's not much, but it's kind of nice to get the bonus. Anyway, expenses, I don't have that many because I self-edit, I create my own covers in Canva, and I so far haven't used any editors for my books. I do, however, sometimes push a new release with relatively cheap newsletter promos that are offered in Germany. They don't cost as much. Also, after summer, my books tanked in sales, so I tried AMS, Amazon ads again, but yet again, they don't really work for me. I don't know, I'm not an expert on that. I tried to read books about it, but somehow they don't really work. Maybe it's different in the US market where people really kick it off with these ads, but I haven't figured it out, really. And it's a money sink, so I don't do that anymore now. Now I'll just try to keep my organic sales going and stuff, because everything I've achieved so far is mostly through organic sales and organic visibility, pushed by these cheaper newsletter promos on release, especially helpful for the first book in the series, because that really didn't get into the visibility motor or the recommendation engine Amazon has, but with the promo, it could get the ball rolling for the whole series. And in summer, especially, or in spring and summer last year, my books took off really well by themselves. Anyway, total expenses were about 160 euros. So now the whole point of this video is income. Let's talk about income. How did it develop month by month in 2025? For January, I had 849 euros. In February, I had 1,413 euros. In March, I had 1,613 euros. In April, I had 1,796 euros. And then in May, I actually got quite a lot of momentum. So that's when my numbers really started to go up. In May, I had 2,067 euros. And then in June, I had 2,748 euros. In July, I crossed the 3,000 euro mark, where I had 3,429 euros. In August, I had 3,297 euros. And then everything tanked again. So for September, I only had 2,150 euros again. And October, it sank again to below 2,000 euros, where I had 1,925 euros. November, even lower, 1,744 euros. But December, Christmas came around. My two Christmas books picked up the pace a bit again. For December, I had 2,291 euros. All in all, this gave me a total income for 2025 of about 25,300 euros or 29,350 US dollars if you're from the US and want to know with the current exchange rate. As I already said, in summer my sales suddenly tanked very steeply, and I still don't really know why. The first books in my series had for almost over a year previously been making around 200 euros a month steadily, but in summer they had started to tank, and overall, even though it had started to go really well for my books since May, and I had this momentum built up where I was making more and more with each release, something happened and all that stopped. So my newest releases all were dead on arrival. There was a little peak on release day, but then they didn't really get any momentum for the whole series. The whole series, everything went down and down and down and down and down. It doesn't matter how much I published, something was happening, and like everything just tanked. I also have this graph of my daily royalties from the start of my pen name to the end of the year, where you can see like the peaks are the pre-orders being booked on release day, so there's always like an income peak. But then you can see how like in the beginning it's all steadily rising with each release, they're making more and more money, but then something in the algorithm changed and it's going down and down and down and down until Christmas, where it picked up the pace a bit again. But yeah, this is the problem with like being so reliant on one retailer, Amazon. You're a slave to the algorithm and you don't know how the algorithm works, so you're kind of screwed because you don't know what's happening. You can't rely on the algorithm. And it's like, for long-term thinking, you should actually avoid being exclusive and be wide and build your own like presence and build your own shop, have books everywhere. But for me, I don't have the time for that. And like, it's still nice to have this built-in visibility with Amazon. I haven't given up completely on it, but you have to be wary. Amazon algorithm can't be trusted. There are a lot of people who always say like they know exactly how it works, and it's like, oh, it's A10 now, it's the A10 algorithm, blah, blah, blah. But let's be honest, if you're not an engineer or something working at Amazon, you have no idea how the algorithm actually works, okay? Like you can all make the guesses and you can all like Google around and find all these articles about, oh, this is now this number of the algorithm, and now this is more important than that and stuff. But like, in the end, nobody really knows. Only Amazon knows, okay? Like, don't be fooled. People try to tell you they know how the algorithm works. They do not, okay? It's like, let's be real. All right, in closing, let me be a bit honest here. I have started to feel a bit burnt out again. For the last couple of months, I haven't been writing that much, and my motivation comes and goes in waves. I had this super surge of motivation earlier last year because everything went so well. But then when they all tanked, like the momentum cut off for my books, I was like, it was a bit of a rough blow to my motivation, you know. But I haven't quit yet, and I won't quit. You know, I just keep going at a much slower pace and see if I can sustain this kind of numbers throughout this year without burning myself out. And I'll focus on my job and my kids and my family and stuff. This is still like more of a hobby to me, even though it makes a nice chunk of income. I haven't quit my day job. This is not my main source of income, so it's not that important that this goes well. So maybe I should keep calm and keep going without burning myself out. But yeah, did you come this far? Thanks for watching. I hope this was somehow useful to you, and maybe you can share what your experience is with your books and stuff. Whatever. I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, see ya and have a good year.